Welcome back to the channel. I'm Colin and this is a review of the Ziigaat Arete. So Ziigaat reached out to me and asked if I wanted to try out their IEMs. This is the first Ziigaat IEM I've ever heard. Honestly, when I first looked at Ziigaat's catalog, I was kind of confused, as all the IEMs look so similar and were priced so similarly as well. The Arete is a collaboration between Ziigaat and Fresh Reviews. The Arete was designed primarily as a gaming IEM that also should be able to play music very well. I don't do any gaming nowadays, so I'll review it based on music listening. The packaging of the Arete is fairly simple and straightforward. You get the IEMs themselves, a PVC leather zipper pouch with the cable inside it, 3 pair of silicone tips, and a pair of foam tips. So this is the Arete. I have mine in blue. I believe the blue and white variants are new colors. It has a quite shiny and glittery faceplate, with the combination of dark and light blue. Gives it some ocean summer vibes. I quite like it. The shell itself is well rounded and nicely polished. It doesn't have a wing design, so it should fit most people well. And there are 2 vents on top of the IEMs. Mine comes with a 3.5mm 2-pin cable, but it's also available in balanced. The Arete fits really well in my ears. No hot spots or any discomfort. I was able to use the stock tips too, so that's good. Isolation is good, above average compared to other hybrid IEMs, can be used in public transport with no issues. The Arete has a 5-driver configuration. It features 1 biocellulose diaphragm dynamic driver and 4 nose BA drivers. It has a freeway crossover, and here are the technical details. For this review, I used my DX340 MacBook Pro and the USB dongle provided with the Meze Elba. All the sources were able to drive the Arete well. It's a set that's easy to drive. The Arete is a highly technical IEM for its price. It has a mostly neutral sound signature with a 9dB bass shelf. Here's what I got from my measurement rig. As you can see, the Arete stays pretty flat from 200Hz onwards all the way down the frequency response graph. In my subjective impressions, they do sound pretty much like how it graphs. The highs are what stands out most for me in the Arete. It has great resolution, yet doesn't sound dry or clinical. Listening to Arete gives me a sensation of listening to studio monitors. But what's different is that some studio monitors usually have a very short reverb, which may sound congested or dull for some. The Arete has a nice and tasteful reverb to the highs. Instruments like cymbals and acoustic guitar, you'll be able to hear a prolonged reverb, which gives Arete more of a hi-fi sound, which I like. Listening to a well-mastered and well-recorded album like Brother in Arms by Dire Straits, you will be able to hear lots of details and reverb from instruments. The album will shine when you play it with highly resolving IEMs like the Arete. The mids follow the trend of the highs, clean, quick, and detailed. Vocals are upfront and has a bit of forwardness to it. Despite it being quite resolving, it doesn't sound sibilant to my ears. The upper mid-range is quite well tamed. The mids sound a bit more clinical when compared to the highs. There isn't as much reverb or decay in the mids. It may sound slightly dry to some if you're looking for lush and smooth vocals. Even when listening to quite upfront vocal recordings, for example, albums from James Bay or Norah Jones, I don't feel it's sibilant, but I'm still able to hear lots of details in the vocals. The bass will require some burn-in to settle on the Arete. My initial impression on the bass was drastically different from my second listen after around 24 hours of burn-in. In my initial impression, the bass felt bloated and not very well defined. Here are my impressions after around a day of burn-in. Bass on the Arete is slightly boosted, especially in the sub-bass region, but the mid-bass is well controlled. It does not bleed into the mid-range, allows for a good overall neutral tonal balance in the mids and highs. It does have some punch to it, but it also goes away really quick. It doesn't linger in the air, giving you a very snappy bass response. The bass has good texture to it, even when playing electronic music, say like Random Access Memories from Daft Punk. Overall, I think the bass is quite satisfying and revealing. Unless you are a hardcore bass head, the bass response of the Arete should satisfy you. The width of the soundstage of the Arete is decent. Doesn't feel particularly wide, but what stands out to me is the depth of the stage and the accuracy in its imaging capabilities. I feel that there is a good presentation of depth, instrument separation is really good for the price, and you can clearly hear where the vocals are placed in every track. Some more forward and some tracks a bit more laid back. The differences are very well presented in the Arete. In comparison to other IEMs, the Zephyr is pretty much the polar opposite of the Arete. The Zephyr is more about the overall smoothness and warmth of the sound signature, and has less focus on clarity and dynamics. In contrast, the Ziigaat sounds drier in the mid-range, but also feels more dynamic and has more resolution. Here's another IEM I want to compare. The Morris Dragon is a very different IEM in terms of its configuration and price. I wanted to see how the Arete performs compared to IEMs above its price. Overall, the Dragon has a darker sound than the Arete. The detail retrieval in the highs in the Arete really stood out during the comparison. However, when driven with a powerful source, the Dragon is able to present a really deep and wide soundstage, where the Arete is lacking a bit of width in comparison. Now let's talk about what I don't quite like. I think Ziigaat can pay a little more attention to the cable. It looks like a pretty generic cable that you might find in cheaper IEMs. I also don't like the shiny black PVC jacket as it looks kind of cheap, but that may be a personal thing. But honestly, there isn't much that I don't like about these IEMs, and you should probably hear that from the tone of the review. In conclusion, the Arete is an IEM I like a lot. I think it did what it set out to do. It's studio tuning with bass boost. The clean sounding mids really reminded me of listening to my studio monitors. I think I'm personally more used to this clean and more clinical sound, as I've been primarily using studio monitors for music listening for many years now. It's a sound that I like and find exciting. Although I haven't done any gaming with it, I think it does really well in playing music. So if you're looking for a technical and revealing IEM with a bass boost in this price range, definitely give the Arete a try. So this is the end of my review. Hope you found it useful. What is your experience with the Arete? Let me know in the comments below. This is the very first Ziigaat IEM I tried, and the overall experience is quite pleasant. I'll definitely look more into it in the future. Please like and share this video and subscribe to the channel if you're liking what you're seeing, and I'll see you in the next one.